Hey, welcome to this video. So as you can see, we'll be cutting a trouser. Now the trouser is folded based on the edge to the other edge. You actually fold your trouser like this because it gives you the opportunity to use one trouser length in cutting out a trouser without a problem. So if you fold your trouser like that and you are successful in cutting out your trouser, you'll probably be able to use one trouser length to cut out your measurement. So before we go into our work of the day, there will be many things I will be explaining. First, it will be our waistband. So as you can see, our waistband is already folded, and that is 2 inches. So if I have folded the top of my waistband, which you can see I folded, and I'll be making a 1/2 inch join into the body of the trouser, what will be left will be 1.5 inch. That means 1.5 inch will be added to the length of our trouser, and when our trouser also join this part, our trouser will be losing 1/2 inch. So what this actually means, what I'm just trying to explain is, when you're cutting out your trouser length, the first thing you have to understand is, if your waistband will be 2 inch less, if your waistband will be 2 inches, that means your trouser length will be 1 inch less. So normally our trouser length is 39, but now we'll make it 38. And that is understanding the effect of your waistband. So most times when you watch people cutting out videos, that initial measurement was wrong, so marking out 38. Like I was saying earlier, when you watch people cutting out trouser length, they just cut out the length. It is not actually right. If you're adding a waistband, you have to consider the waistband before getting your trouser length. So our trouser length is 39, and our waistband will be 2 inches after folding the top. So most definitely, the length will be cutting will be 38. So you see, after doing everything, we'll get our 39 perfectly well. So let's go back to the job of the day. This will be a well-detailed video, so just stay tuned to the end. So the next thing, we're measuring 2 inches downwards, and that 2 inches will be the excesses we'll be folding. Some people like to measure 2.5, 3, depending on how much you want folded inwards. If you are sewing for a child, some people will tell you measure 3 inches or 4 inches and fold inwards, so in case the child gets taller, they can always extend the measurement. So that's that. So the next thing is to take our seat measurement, and as you can see, I'm measuring 11, but what I actually need is 10. So if I'm measuring 11, you have to know that something is cooking. So 11 is what I took, but 10 is what I actually need. So I'll be solving that, and I'll be getting my 10 if you stick around. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed, and let's continue sharing working experience together. So the next thing, I'll be taking 1 inch. I don't do this comfortably, especially for measurements that are lesser than 36, 35. That is only when I start doing 1 inch because of the curve. Because if somebody has a waist of 38, 37, 39, 40, most definitely you've got to give them hip. That means the hip and the waist has like a mighty difference. So you have to curve the trouser at that point and give the trouser shape. So basically that's just what is done. So the next thing we are doing now is dividing the waist into 4, and as you can see, we are doing that by folding the tape into 4. Now I told you I needed 10, but instead of 11 I chalked, and this is where I'll be getting it. So I chalk my waist down. Then the next thing I'll do, I'll take 1 inch, because the front of your waist has to be a bit down because of your stomach. So I'll take 1 inch down, which brings us back to 10 inches. So it means at the part of the side of the waist is 11, the front just right above, right below your abdomen is 10 inches. So you can see what I did there. So now I took 1 inch downwards. Now the waist I folded into 4, I'll mark it on the new line I've gotten by taking 1 inch downwards. So from the point I'm marking now down to that point is now 10 instead of 11. So when I said I was cooking something, that was the fried rice I was actually cooking. So that's that. So I took 1 inch downwards because that part is higher than the under the abdomen part of the waist. So I also added 1 inch for our dart. So it goes inwards like that. So the next thing I'll be doing will be to divide the whole measurement there into 2, and that division will be what I'll be using for my hip measurement. So there is no particular position where your hip starts from or where it ends. Your hip is just the most biggest part of your lower part of your body. That's the bum area. So that's just the hip. It doesn't really have a position where it starts or ends. So but for me, I'll be taking the half point between the beginning of the waist to the down of the crotch part. So I'll be dividing into 2. The half point is what I'll be using as my hip. So I've divided my hip into 4 by bending my tape rule 4 times, and I'll chalk. So that's the hip mark. So the next thing I'll be doing is to get my trouser. My trouser has to go down straight, and the downwards movement of my trouser has to become smaller. So I have to take 2 inches from the down to form a slant line. Now the problem of taking 2 inches down to form a slant line, there's always an issue when you've already taken 1 inch for your curve at the waist, for the bum curve or whatever they call that curve, I don't know. So now when you are joining this 2 inch slant, you have to make sure both the beginning of the curve at the top and this line you are creating now don't form an edge. Both lines have to blend in accurately, so it won't even look like they were joined at some point. So that's just the jerk of the whole thing. But the thing is, when you cut your trouser like this, I'm saying suit, you cut your trouser like this, it actually brings out the right curve, especially for females. If a female wears a trouser that is cut like this, everything comes out well. So for male, especially male with big waist, big body, you also have to cut their trousers like this too. If I'm cutting a trouser lesser than that, you will see what I'll do. I will not even give 1 inch measurement for the bum part. So my thigh, which is the biggest part of my lap, is what I have divided into 2 and marked. So that's my thigh, and I'll be adding 1.5 inches. Sometimes I add 1, I can add 1.5, just depending on how big. So next I'll be measuring my knee, my waist to my knee. So the waist to my knee I actually measured is 19. The waist to my knee I measured is 19, but for the fact that ½ inch will be chopped off at the top when you're sewing, I'm measuring 19.5. So that's 19. And the reason why I usually measure my knee from my waist are 2 reasons. One, when I'm curving my trouser, it helps me curve better, so I get my curve better. And 2, some people have awkward body structure. From their knee downwards is as big as somebody else's lap. So you have to just be sure that your thigh and your ankle aren't the only thing you know the measurement of. So I'll take the measurement of my knee and I'll chalk. Then I'll go down, take the measurement of my ankle, and I'll chalk. Now, mind you, my ankle is 13.5, and I'll be dividing into 2. Now, my client wants my trouser to be straight upwards. So my ankle measurements will be the same measurement I'll be taking upward for at least 5 inches. So I'll be measuring 5 inches upward. I'll take a measurement, and that 13, and I'll measure 5 at the other part, take the measurement, and that 13.5 I divided into 2 will still be the same thing I'll measure, because my client actually wants the trouser to be straight. You know, when something is straight from the ankle upwards. But mind you, I actually checked while I was measuring. I measured 5 inches upward from his ankle to make sure the 13.5 could still fit him. So I'm not just doing this abstractly. So as you can see now, I'll be taking my curve bit by bit from each point. So that's how you get perfect curves. It's not you just draw curve from one part to the other part, no. So as you can see, it didn't even meet the curve of the ankle, of the knee. So now, I'll go to my waist, take my waist to my hip. From my thigh, I take it back to my hip, and it might not even meet the point. You see, it didn't meet. So that's how you get perfect curves. So I take my thigh to my knee, and as you can see, they actually meet. So from that, I will join my curve of my SS I added. I'll join it here. So from that, you can see my first cut is actually out, and everything is easy as expected. So from everything we've measured now, the trouser length is 39. The excesses we measured was 2 inches, that is 41. So what I'm trying to explain here now is you can actually use a trouser length of 45 inches. Is a trouser length 45? I think so, yes. I think that's 38 plus 36 plus a quarter, and I think a quarter is 9 inches, so that should be 45 now. So if I'm working with a trouser length which is 45, I'll still have SS's, because everything I'm cutting from here now is actually 41 inches. I'm talking of my trouser length now, plus the SS's. So I'm trying to explain how we cut trousers. So as you can see now, the front part, I'll be using the extended part of the other part to cut the bigger part of the trouser, because a trouser is actually 4 pieces outfit. Now when you are cutting something, watch what I'm doing here. You just don't follow the line. Your scissors is what will tell you what is straight and what is not straight. So when you are cutting now, you see that I'll be cutting out some part of that curve just to make sure a curve doesn't exist there, or an edge doesn't exist there. So I'll just go with the flow of my scissors. My scissors will just give me what I need. Now, that's that. And everything you cut out in the trouser is actually needed. The part I just threw off is what you'll be using for your belt straps. So we've succeeded in cutting out the front piece. Now we'll be cutting the back piece. The back piece, as you can see, we'll be cutting since we've not said anything about sewing allowance. We've not said anything about the excesses at the back. This trouser I'm cutting, the excesses at the back of the waist will be just ½ inch. You know, normally when you open your trouser at the back, you see like 1 inch excesses. One will face one part, the other one will face another part. That's at the back, underneath the waistband at the back. But for this one now, the excesses will just be ½ inch. And if I wanted it to be more than half, as I'm cutting the back now, I will add it. So some people will just tell you add 3 at the back. They don't really explain why. So I'm trying to explain why to you now. Instead of 2, they'll just say add 3. The 3 they're adding is actually to form the excesses at the back, because the excesses at the back is actually good if you are not sure of yourself. So after finished sewing, you can always increase the waist of the trouser by that process if you have excesses at the back. So as you can see, the first thing I'm doing is cutting out the cuff part. Now I took 1 inch downward. I'll return the 1 inch I borrowed back here, and it's already on the line, so the line there is already the same. So I'll cut out my other cuff part This other cuff, the first cuff part I cut off was what we actually use for pocket cover. You can see this one I'm cutting out, we use it for best strap also. Now this part I'm cutting off is what is used for your flap, where you put your zip and your zip cover. So I'll be making a video soon on how to sew a trouser, so you'll see all that. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to trim off the edge of the bottom, make sure everything is on the same level, no unnecessary excesses. So I'll adjust to create 2 inches excess all through. So I'm adjusting to create 2 inches excess all through. That 2 inches is actually the sewing allowance of the whole trouser. The front half inch at both sides, the back half inch at both sides, and you know the materials are joined into 2 when you are cutting. So 2 inches up, 2 inches down, everything is 4 inches. So that accounts for the excesses of sewing allowance. So that's the sewing allowance. So everything I'm adding all through is 2 inches. So as you can see, everything is 2 inches. And I'm doing this, and I'm telling you, because the excesses at the back of the waist after sewing. I will show you after I finish cutting the trouser. I will show you after I finish sewing the trouser. The trouser, this trouser I made, actually, I was part of the video, so you see it, you see what I'm trying to explain. So now I'll measure my waist just to check for clarity purpose. So after I measure my waist, from that point I'll check, and you see what I have left is 2 inches. So there's no point trimming anything, so it's on the edge, 2 inches on the edge. So what I'll just do is just to cut off. There's nothing to do there. So let's say what I got is still less. I'll still trim off because I want my excesses at the back to be ½ inch, because I'm pretty confident. But if you're not confident, this is the point to add to the excesses at the back that will be under your waistband at the back of your trouser. So you just add at that point. But I didn't add because I'm pretty sure of what I would get. In tailoring, you have to trust your tape rule a lot. The tape rule is like our sword that we are going into battle with, so you always have to trust your tape rule. So my work is pretty much done. So I've actually succeeded in cutting off my trouser perfectly. So if I'm to show you the video of the making, what I'll just be showing you is how to whip. After whipping, how to make my pockets, the back pocket, the front pocket. Like we tailors do, the next thing is to chalk off the back part. Chalk off the back part because sometimes you sew at night and you don't want to have issues in terms of figuring where the front or the back is. Now, as you can see, if I'm to make this trouser from a trouser length, I should be able to get excesses. Look at the excesses I've got. Now look at the trouser I made. This is the outfit I made the trouser for. As you can see, the ½ inch is the only excess left. So that is it. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and let's keep making